we will begin our tonight class with prayer, Islamic prayer. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Gracious and Merciful. And we would like to greet everyone with the Islamic prayer. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And for non-Muslim or newcomer, new Muslim, the meaning is peace be upon you. So our facilitator, Maulana Fahd Sahib, who is residing in Barbados, he will be presenting today. So I would request Maulana Peer Zada Sahib to start this class.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. So in our previous session on Thursday, we covered the aspect of Allah in Islam. Right? Allah means God, and so in the viewpoint of Islam, but it is not a separate God. It is the same God, Father, Creator, all-powerful being that we all refer to. So some people should think that Islam has a new God or a separate God, but this is the same God that has been there from the beginning of time. That is who we refer to as Allah, or we can just say God. So we also talked about his attributes, that he has about 99 attributes that we know of that make up his being, and this is how we recognize God and how we make a relationship with Allah, by first studying his attributes, and then once you get to know God, then you can develop that relationship with God. Just like in human circumstances, when you want to develop a relationship with someone, right, you don't just do it off the bat. First you get to know the person, you get to know their qualities, their characteristics, and because of those characteristics is what you fall in love with, or what you like. So this is the same way as God. If you want to make a relationship with Allah, then you have to first get to know the attributes of Allah. Who is Allah? Once you get to do that, then you can understand, or then you can better make a relationship with him. So today we'll talk about the Holy Quran. Right. So similar to every major religion, the Muslims also have a holy book, which is called the Quran. And the word Quran, which is an Arabic word, it means that something that is often read or recited. And the Quran is a record of the verbal revelations in Arabic from God Almighty to the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, over a period of 22 years and 5 months, so almost 23 years. And these revelations first started in the month of Ramadan. So basically, the Quran was revealed, right, to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And when those things were revealed to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, over a period of 23 years, he would then also get people, his companions, to note down those things or write them down. And so that's how then the Quran was compiled into a final book. So the Quran has 114 chapters, which are called surahs, and each surah has a name, right? So, for example, I have it on the right side over here. An example, right? You would see at the top it says Al-Fatiha. Al-Fatiha is the opening chapter of the Holy Quran, right? So in this chapter we have 7 verses, and in every chapter or every surah, how you say, we have verses or ayat. Ayat means verse, okay? And this also actually reminds me, someone was asking in the group chat the other day about, Ayat al-Kursi. So Ayat al-Kursi also comes from this word ayat, which means verse. So someone was saying it's a surah, but just to correct, I also mentioned in the group that ayat actually means verse. So it's only one verse of a chapter of the Holy Quran. So moving on, a very distinctive feature of the Holy Quran is that it contains a divine guarantee for its preservation, meaning that Allah the Almighty has said in the Holy Quran and revealed to the Holy Prophet ﷺ that he himself has revealed the book and that he will safeguard it. So this is actually a guarantee that any Muslim in the world can give you, is that the Quran is the exact same as it was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, 1400 years ago. And this is something that if you open a Quran from over here, if you open a Quran in Japan or Russia or Indonesia or any part of the world, you would see that the Arabic is always untouched. It is the exact same in every single Quran that you open, right? The translations can be different, right? But we say that actual Arabic text, which is the actual revelation that Allah revealed, that has been untouched and it has been preserved from 1400 years ago. So what do we actually have in the Quran? Like what is, some people would say, or some people actually would get intimidated when they see the Quran and see that it's in Arabic. And but when you show them that there's actually an English translation, then that would appease them. But still people don't want to read the whole book to find out what is actually in the Quran. So they often ask that, why should I read this book? Like what does it contain? Right? So, well, firstly, we say that the author of this book is no other than God, right? He is the one that revealed this book. And what it contains is it first, it not first, there's not any particular order, but these are the 5 things that I have written that the Quran would contain or what you would find in the Quran, right? First, we have the nature of the spiritual world, right? So these things we cannot find in a science book or chemistry or biology books, right? The nature of the spiritual world is only something that can be told to us through the unseen, meaning that only God can reveal what is actually beyond this world, what is our soul, what are angels, what is, He Himself is a spiritual being. So all these things, right? Heaven and hell, all these things are only mentioned through by Allah the Almighty. So the Quran contains that. Then the Quran has the law and the commandments. Right? It contains what we should do and what we should not do, what is beneficial for us and what is not beneficial for us. So we as Muslims live by a certain law and the commandments of Allah, and that is what we find in the Holy Quran. So if Allah the Almighty is telling us do not eat pork, right? So we will find these things in the Holy Quran. Then we have historical accounts. The Quran tells us about different nations that had existed and then had passed or had been destroyed because of their, disobedience or because of their tyranny. And it also talks about different prophets at different times in history as well, so that they can illustrate to us, or give us life lessons and we could understand them better and also we could learn from them and become, the best Muslims we could possibly be. Then it has wisdom as well as to why things are the way that they are. Then, the Quran contains prophecies. And this is a very important aspect of knowing if this book, the Quran that we claim is from God, is actually from God. So prophecy is a thing, telling what is to come without anyone actually knowing of it, right? Other than God the Almighty. So and the word prophet also is related to this law because a prophet is a person that makes a prophecy, right? A prophet tells of something that is going to happen in the future, and only God could have told him that thing, right? So, for example, if a person makes a prophecy that it's going to rain tomorrow, that is not actually a prophecy because we know in Guyana it rains almost every other day, so there's a big chance that it will actually rain tomorrow, right? But if that person says, on the 12th of December, this and this is going to take place, something is going to there's going to be a tornado, even though there's no warning in the weather network or on the internet or something, and it's not something likely that ever happened in Guyana, and it comes to be, and that person also claimed that it was God who told me this thing, then we can consider that a prophecy. So I'm going to share some prophecies. Although there are many in the Holy Quran, I will just share a few that are mentioned in the Holy Quran that prove that this book is actually from Allah the Almighty, because 1400 years ago, there's no way that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, or anyone could have known these things. So, firstly, the Holy Quran, and just remember that every single thing that is written here was revealed 1400 years ago. Whether those people understood it at that time or not, it was still revealed at that time. And, these things come to light, even in today's time. So, for example, if for about fingerprints, right? It says in the Holy Quran that their skins will bear witness against them as to what they have been doing, right? So we know that every single person has a unique fingerprint, right? And we know in crime investigation nowadays they often check fingerprints. So just by you leaving your fingerprints at a scene of a crime, they'll be able to tell who was there, who had committed the crime, etc. So this is a prophecy that there would come a time when the people's skin would witness against them to what they have been doing. Then the Quran also mentions about how in the future there will be genetic engineering, right? It says that they will alter Allah's creation, chapter 4, verse 120. So we know in today's time, there are many people who get plastic surgery, there's genetic engineering, and people are even trying to get into cloning and other kind of, science experiments that alter what Allah's original creation is. Then the Quran also mentions about roads and mountains. It says in chapter 81, verse 4, that and when the mountains are made to move. So this was a prophecy that people would make roads, through the mountains, right? And after the invention of the dynamite, only people were able to do this because they were able to blow up a part of the mountain and then make a road through it. So it wasn't that the mountains were actually moving, but that there was a path that was been able to make through them by way of dynamites. Then the Quran mentions about new transport systems. At the time of the Prophet Muhammad, they used to travel by horseback or by camels, right? But it mentions at that time that when the she camels 10 months pregnant are abandoned, and it also mentions that he has created horses and mules and asses that you may ride them, and as a source of beauty, and he will create what you do not yet know. So at that time, it told people that he will create those means of transportation that you do not even know of yet. And now we know, in this day and age, that people travel by vehicles, by cars, by motorbikes, by airplane, by ship. So these are all inventions or creations that we did not even know of, but Allah the Almighty made it possible. He informed the Holy Prophet, peace upon him, that this will take place. And so when we analyze, just these prophecies, it will make you realize that this book is actually from Allah, because it was Allah alone who could have told the Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, about these things that were going to take place. So now, lastly, I'm going to talk about the etiquettes of the Quran, right? So many, or I wouldn't say many, but some of you purchased the Holy Quran. As you might have met us at the Gaia Expo, you might have purchased a Holy Quran, or you might have already have one if you are Muslim, or maybe just to study. So, but there are certain etiquettes that we as Muslims, try to follow when we have the Holy Quran in our possession. And it is very important, considering that the author of this book is no other than God himself. We should not treat it like any other regular book, right? So firstly, I will go, through these etiquettes of the Holy Quran, that we should be physically clean, and preferably we perform what is called ablution or wudu before we recite the Holy Quran. So at the least, if you don't do the full wudu, which is like, the Muslim method of cleaning yourself before prayer, then at least you should wash your hands. You should make sure your hands are clean so that you can pick up the Holy Quran, right? And one should also be spiritually pure, clean, and sincere in their beliefs. So we can read the Holy Quran at any convenient time. So just remember this, that you can pick up the Quran at any time and you can recite it at any time. There's no specific timings where you can only recite the Holy Quran. But the best time, as mentioned in the Holy Quran, is at the time of dawn, after the Fajr prayer. That is when Allah the Almighty has mentioned that verily the recitation of the Holy Quran at dawn is especially acceptable to God. So, this is just extra points of blessings that you can get by reciting at that time. Then we should try to understand the meaning of the Holy Quran well, and we should recite it with complete attention. That we should not have it, on the side and we're looking at the Quran, we're watching TV at the same time. So your full attention should be towards the Holy Quran when you pick it up to recite. And it also says in the Holy Quran, and recite the Quran slowly and thoughtfully. Then one should also try to recite it in a melodious and nice tune. So it is in Arabic. So those people who know how to recite the Arabic, then they should try to do so in a nice manner. Then we do not place the Holy Quran on the floor. It should be placed somewhere that is higher than feet level, and preferably on a table or a bookshelf, right? So this is also important, that we do not ever place the Holy Quran on the floor. Then one should also avoid pointing their feet towards the Quran out of respect. one should not also put other things on top of the Quran, such as other books or household items. Like you might have a cup of water that you have, and you see a book, so you put it on top of there. But as for the Quran, we do not put anything on top of it. Rather, it's the highest thing that we put on any other thing. Like I mentioned before, that we put it on a shelf or a table somewhere where it's away from the ground, and nothing is on top of it either. So simply, we treat the book as it is a revealed book by Allah the Almighty, and it doesn't have the same status as a book that was written by any other person. So we treat it with, as it should be treated, as a book that has been revealed by Allah the Almighty, and therefore we give our full attention and full respect to this book. All right, so that's it from me in regards to the Holy Quran. In our Thursday class, we'll cover the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. But in regards to the Holy Quran, this was my short presentation today.
Jazakumullah, Maulana Sahib. Thursday would be our last session, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So thank you very much, Maulana Fazl Sahib, for presenting today. Now the floor is open. If you have any question regarding this presentation or anything else regarding Islam, you can ask the question or you can type it in the chat and we will try to address them. Okay, if there's no other questions, then we can conclude our class today. Once again, thank you very much for coming online and joining us. And our next session, which would be on Thursday, would be last session. And then we will discuss, how are we going to distribute the certificates. But before that, we would have an evaluation that would be on Google Form. So a form will be shared with everyone just to check how much you have learned. And then based on your information that you have received, those people who would complete it successfully, they would receive a certificate, inshallah. So thank you very much, and Jazakumullah. Thanks to Maulana Fazl Sahib for presenting for tonight's class. So until Thursday, we will meet again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and have a good night.
Waalaikum assalam.
Waalaikum assalam.
Waalaikum salam.
Waalaikum assalam.
Walaikum salam.
Walaikum assalam, Sheikh.
Waalaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.